Well, welcome back, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for the second day of our statewide conference. It is my honor to introduce Rodney Roberts. He is a remarkable individual whose journey exemplifies resilience, dedication, and unwavering commitment to justice. Rodney's originally from Newark, New Jersey, and his life took an unexpected turn when he was wrongly convicted and spent 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Since being exonerated, Rodney has emerged as a leading advocate for a fairer criminal justice system. He has dedicated himself to supporting exonerees and their families. Recently, Rodney's impact got to expand even further as he assumed a new role at the Innocence Project as their first reentry coach. In this capacity, Rodney continues to provide essential support and care for those affected by wrongful imprisonment while sharing profound insights gleaned from his personal experience. Rodney Roberts is not only a symbol of resilience, he's a driving force for change, embodying the spirit of reform and empowerment. Please join me in welcoming Rodney, a true inspiration and advocate for justice. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. As stated, my name is Rodney Roberts. I'm an exoneree and now a reentry coach for the Innocence Project, New York. First, I would like to thank everyone for inviting me to participate in the conference for reentry. I look at it as an opportunity to share information, to share growth, and to look for solutions to help those who are in the reentry process. To give a little nuance to myself and my history, in 1996, I was wrongly arrested and imprisoned, incarcerated for a crime I did not commit. I was arrested just standing, waiting for a bus to come. I was pulled over and told that I fit a description that someone had provided. I vehemently attempted to advocate my innocence, to let them know that they had the wrong person. But despite those claims, I was still arrested. I was brought into custody. And while in the county, I was so caught off guard by everything, afraid. I had no real money or my family to provide or get counsel, private counsel. So at that point, I was at the mercy of, a public defender's office. But in my life, I had just got a nice new job. I had just got custody of my son, nice apartment we had just moved into. I had just enrolled him into school. So my plan in my life was taking on a shape that was really growing for me, that I was really happy to see. And this just disrupted everything. So while in the county waiting, pleading my innocence, I continuously asked for the evidence or someone to speak to help me navigate through this difficult time in my life. I was assigned a public defender who at that time, he was new on the scene, and I explained to him the situation. And so he gave me insurance that he would do all he could to help me remedy my situation. I waited a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, unable to make the bail because it had given me a ransom bail, like $150,000 bail for a crime I didn't commit. And I was unable, or my family was able to raise that kind of money to have me released. So 6 months went by, 8 months went by. At that time, I'm worried, I'm hurt, I'm afraid, I'm stressed out. I'm in this county jail with the conditions, inhumane conditions I had to live through, dealing with the disciplinary restrictions of this environment, the lack of liberties stripped so suddenly. Then one day, 8 months later, another public defender came. This was a second public defender, not the same guy I had first met. And at that time, I went and tried to explain to him as well that, look, I'm innocent. I did not commit this offense. I need help. So he assured me also that he would go and get the discoveries. He would talk to someone and figure out what was going on. At that moment, I felt a little assured that maybe now I will be released back to my son, back to my family, to my mother, back into the life that I had built for myself. 8 months went by, 10 months went by. Now I'm sitting in the county for close to a year now. And then a third public defender came, someone different from the first two. But this guy, he was more polished, more seasoned, told me that I was going to court the next day, that he would meet me in the courtroom and that he would go talk to the prosecutor. But when I was taken to court, as he said, the next day, while waiting in the bullpen area is the waiting area outside the courtroom for those defendants who were being held for court that day. The public defender, he came and talked to me. And the first thing he said to me was, look, the prosecutor offered you a deal. And I went ballistic. A deal? I'm innocent. What are you talking about? Plea agreement, plea bargain. I didn't do this. And he looked at me, he said, look, this is what's going on. He came, he showed me, look, they got evidence against you, told me that they had found a witness who was in the courtroom waiting to testify against me, and that if I didn't take this plea agreement that he worked out with the prosecutor office, that I would spend the rest of my life in jail. And the rest of my life in jail. I'm sitting there looking at the scope of this. And the plea agreement was, I'd take the plea agreement for 7 years, I'd be home in 2 years. And I'm sitting there hurt, heartbroken, scared, isolated, feeling powerless, have to make this decision in my mind between the lesser of two evils, Lucifer or Satan. Which one of these evils is going to treat me better? Would it be better for me to go to trial and possibly get found guilty for a crime I ain't commit and spend the rest of my life in jail? Or was it even better for me to enter a plea agreement to a crime I didn't commit and then come home and within the time and work to find my innocence free? It was such a hard decision to make, and I only had 25 minutes to make this decision. I'm sitting in the bullpen crying, looking at, trying to understand what was going on in my life. How could it fall apart this so much? He also told me that, look, if you take the plea agreement, we would take and make it, the court would mitigate and drop charges so you would not be on record as if anyone was hurt. So I tried to grasp hold to the good things in this situation that can convince me to take a plea agreement for a crime I didn't commit. I was tired of being locked up in the county. I was hurt and tired of being separated from my son. I was hurt and tired of being separated from my mother, from my family, talking on the phone, I'm accepting collect calls. I was just tired to remain in the situation I was in. And out of fear of not wanting to spend the rest of my life, I reluctantly entered a plea into a crime I did not commit. And I can't begin to tell you how much that tore me apart as a person, as a young man, as someone who said growing up, I would never plead guilty to a crime I never committed. Let's pick a jury until I was put in that situation and faced with the odds of spending the rest of my life in jail. And I found myself confronted with this same scenario that I said as a young man that I would stand up. But the fear set in. The fact that I was already confined for all this time for a crime I didn't commit set in. So the reality for me was enter a plea to a crime I didn't commit. And it took me years to get past that. So I was sentenced according to the terms of the plea agreement. The 2 years I was scheduled to go in front of the court. I was sentenced by the judge, and the judge reinforced everything because the judge told me, look, young man, I'm glad you took this plea agreement because if you did, you went to trial, you got found guilty, I would have been forced to sentence you to the highest range of the term. To hear the judge say that just reinforced that I made the best decision to plead guilty to a crime I didn't commit. So once I was sentenced, I was sent to state prison. And while there, going in front of what's called the classification committee, was a group of administrators who assign you job placement, custody, housing, what you and you would be in while you're in that prison. So when they started talking with me about the case and making assertions about what the crimes were, I said, hey, I pled guilty to this. I didn't do any of that. And then I just truthfully, I said to them, I didn't do any of this. I'm innocent. When I said that, everything broke loose. They looked at me like, you just pled guilty to a crime and now you're saying you're innocent. At that point, everything, the wheels spent backwards. They put me in a maximum security. They wouldn't allow me movement. They wouldn't allow me access to certain areas. They treated me very hostile, all because at this point I was saying I'm innocent now. So I went to parole, like they said, the first year. Parole said, asked me what happened. I said, I'm innocent. I didn't commit any of the crime. I just pled guilty to this offense. So I wouldn't be spending life in prison. Parole looked at me, said, oh, you're showing no remorse. You're still in denial. Deny me parole. Went parole second time, same, deny me parole. Third time, they denied me parole. I managed to wind up being forced to serve the whole 7-year term. Mind you, while I was waiting to be released after 7 years, the Attorney General office, because of crime that I was charged with and which was dismissed, was a sexual related offense. They secretly sought a petition to have me civilly committed. So on the day I was scheduled to be released, unknowingly to me, they ambushed me and whisked me away to a special treatment unit they had built that I had no knowledge of. Mind you, my family was out in the parking lot waiting to pick me up. We had this whole idea of celebrating until we had no knowledge that this was going to happen. So while there, I sat confused. I was unable to be part of the program because I didn't fit any of the criteria. I took the battery tested and all the test results, I didn't fit the criteria. The Attorney General psychologist who came to interview me as my adversary, after interviewing me, he pretty much jumped ship and decided he was going to testify in my behalf that I should not have been brought there and I did not fit the criteria. I, in essence, wound up staying there because they had no way of processing me. And because I continued to say and claim my innocence, I wound up spending 10 years there. But my release came as a result of a public defender who came to interview me to represent me at a hearing. Because every year in that civil facility, you get a hearing. So the hearing he came, I told him, look, I'm innocent. I just pled guilty because I was afraid of losing my rest of my life. I didn't do any of this. So he looked at me. He took a chance. He said, I'm going to look into this further. So him and his investigator went and found the victim. When they met with her and showed her my picture, she told them, I don't know who that is. I've never seen that man before in my life. That's not the person who did this to me. They told her, hey, the police report said that you came, picked out his picture, put your signature on the photo, in courtroom, claiming it and that you were ready to testify. She let them know that none of that ever happened. She never even was at the police station. She never was in the courtroom. She didn't even have any knowledge that someone had been arrested in the case. So when that information was discovered, the complexity of my case turned. Then those people with Robert Defender's office and others began to look closely at my innocence, my claims, and also, by the grace of God, the victim in the case became my champion. She came to every court hearing. She wrote every letter. She stood beside me in every instant she could to tell them that I was not the person. She wanted them to go find the right person and send myself release. It took me 10 years to discover the evidence. The ironic part of my case is, for 8 of those years, the Essex County Public Defender's Office helped me, but the Essex County Prosecutor Office claimed that they lost the evidence. They could no longer find the box of evidence I needed to clear my name. So this went on back and forth for 8 years until my appeal was reversed. Higher court reversed my appeal at the same time because there was some resemblance of bias from my judge. They assigned a new judge to my case and a new attorney, a pool attorney. Once that was done, well, just so happenly, the evidence that they claimed was lost was suddenly discovered 8, 9 years later. Now, when that happened, and when that evidence was discovered, mind you, I was an emotional wreck because one side of me was happy, like I'm about to go home, but the other side was like, oh, mothers. But I had to deal with that whole experience of being happy and sad at the same time, angry at the same time. But the glory, the truth prevailed. The evidence was sent to the New Jersey lab where the scientists there concluded that I was excluded as a contributor to any substance and that I was completely exonerated and innocent of the crime. In 2014, I was released. But to give a little nuance to the situation, while in custody, I decided that I was going to pursue higher education. I went back to school, was able to go to college correspondent. I was able, after an 8-year period, to obtain my bachelor's degree. I was able to learn, teach, study law, help other prisoners win their freedom, work as a legal assistant, as a paralegal, help other families get united. At the same time, develop myself. So when I was released in 2014 and given my freedom, for me, that was a whole new chapter in life. And to give further nuance to what happened in my course of freedom, the Innocent Project, who was at that time was formally, they had already been formally in 1992, created by Barry Sheck and Peter Norfield to use evidence of DNA in a different direction, not to prove guilt, but also to prove innocence. So I wrote maybe 60 letters. And each time, to my benefit, to my continuous writing, the Innocent Project would respond, telling me they opened the file for me and they were reviewing my case. They had no real, at the moment, the resources or the evidence they needed now, but they would keep my file open. So in the course of those years, once the DNA was established and I was released, and with the Innocent Project involved in my life in that way, when I was released, they brought me in to help me with reentry. They helped me, they provided a social worker to help look at things for me while I had to use my talents and skills in other ways and my experience to advocate about wrongful imprisonment, to understand the process of reentry, to deal with the traumas that had happened to myself, in a quest to understand the traumas that I just experienced and what I was experiencing and seeing for myself once I was released. The reentry for me was, in the beginning process, very difficult because I had to first understand what was going on. So I did what was necessary, seeking out therapy. And I took the next step as well. I went and sought out training to understand what was trauma, crisis, recovery. I attended classes at Rutgers. I attended classes at Seton Hall until God had a better understanding of what I was going through and help my family understand how they can help as my support system and helping my family understand the dynamics of us as a unit and what reentry meant so that now they were able to help me better because I was able to understand and help myself. And as I grew, I was able to help other exonerees and free people understand the course of reentry and talk with them, share with them, offer peer support. If anything, just be a positive example of change, to fight against the things that were set out to block me or impede my growth, just to stand as an example to all the others that you can grow and still learn and develop, even under the situation you're in. Of years of being working with the Innocent Project as an advocate, giving me a platform to use my voice, to use my talents, to reach out to others, to be able to be of that stature where others can see and see other exonerees overcome the obstacles and the effects of the trauma experience. To my benefit and to my blessing and to the acknowledgement of the good work that we were doing synonymously in our symbiotic relationship, the Innocence Project hired me in 2022 as the first reentry coach in the social work department. I have to take a second to really acknowledge the opportunity given to me, which allowed me to further expand and further reach others who had experienced what I went through and been through what we went through, to help them connect, to help know that we are a community and we are a family, and to build that community and to share peer support and trauma support, crisis support, and help them be able to speak with their families about what they were going through in that moment, the hypervigilance, the culture shock, the feeling isolated, the feeling lack of empowerment, the fears, the inability to make those connections that they once could in relationships. And today, I continue to stand firm as a representative of the Innocence Project as a reentry coach under the guidance of the social work department. With that said, and sharing myself and my story and how I have come to the steps that I'm in front of you as a keynote speaker for reentry, I come with humbly, and once again, I thank you for this opportunity. Now, understanding that when we talk about reentry in the context of this conference, differently from as in wrongful convictions, we talk about reentry in terms of ex-offenders, those who are guilty or may have been guilty for the crimes they have committed, and now released on parole or some supervision. So in order to be able to share more in the conversation, we hope to look and share in the form of looking at reentry, not just coming home, but in recidivism as well, which is on the other end of a failed reentry is recidivism. And we all know that recidivism itself is when an individual comes home and reverts back to that behavior, criminal behavior, or any asocial behavior that leads them back to the prison environment. Now, to add more context to reentry, I felt because this was an Iowa reentry conference that I would first start with the statistics of recidivism of Iowa, which are very impressive, and which are today only 37%, 34% recidivism rate, 3% down this year from 2022, which was 32%. Iowa actually had 3 decreases in the recidivism rate 3 years in a row. So that's a testament to the reentry process, that the recidivism rate in Iowa decreases each year, which is, for me, a format to look at to help add to the success of those who come home, help add to the addressing the housing, the employment, the counseling, the substance abuse, the culture shock, to help address coming home and trying to renegotiate your emotions, your feelings. One of the things in reentry we always talk about, and which I always talk about, was a weekly Zoom group that I host here every Wednesday. is when you spend 15, 20 years in prison, you are in prison in a hostile environment. You're in prison in an environment, foreign environment, where the rules are different. And there are just certain emotions that you're not using, like that feeling of vulnerability, that niceness, that feeling of having people close in your circle, space, that feeling of love and sharing that love. All those feelings in that environment will possibly put your life in danger, get you hurt, get you abused. Imagine feeling, sharing a feeling of love, and that will get you possibly abused or hurt. So you have to put all these feelings that are addictive to having a good human life on the back burner for 10, 15, 20 years, some 30. And then you're released into society. And now all those feelings and good feelings and most you've been forced to hide and hold in now suddenly come rushing out, suddenly flowing out to confusion, to fear, to not knowing what is going on, the feeling of you feeling the feeling weird now, the feeling of vulnerability now, you feeling it, you hugging your family, people, that adjustment process takes time just to become more emotionally intelligent, just to understand what it's all right to cry. It's all right to let someone hug you. It's all right not to be hyper vigilant, hyperactive. It's all right to stand and have people stand next to you. It's all right to feel loving. It's all right to feel a little more soft inside. It's all right to let people love upon you. And these are the first feelings you have to deal with. So that in reentry has to be taken seriously and understood because that is our fact and reality. In those steps, while processing back into society and understanding and trying to navigate through all these strong feelings and feeling odd because most people don't understand. Your families, they don't understand. They were never trained and taught to understand what you're going through. And that's why it's so important for those organizations who have the staff, that have the training, those social service organizations, those reentry organizations, to be a part of the community, to provide the services that help navigate and connect the dots for individuals coming home, just to begin the process, to be able to make a client assessment, to be able to look at a client and say who's more higher risk for recidivism and who stands a better chance of reintegrating successfully back in society. That is an important part of our community because that is are those on the front line of defense to helping someone rebuild and reestablish their life, going through a perilous time in their life. Although most people who come home, myself was one, and individuals who ex-offenders that come home, put up a face of confidence, a face of, I got it. I know it. Just give me a chance, which more or less be true, but it masks a fear. It holds back a real issue of trauma that we were experiencing, myself once, and continue, have experienced, but cannot find the commonality and the ability to be vulnerable, feel vulnerable enough to share. And that's why it's important to have that sense of understanding. And when we talk about reentry, we talk about the crisis that we have where we look for reentry in more common ways. Myself and how we approach the whole mindset of reentry as and against recidivism is my mantra is no more victims. I approach it with the mindset that no more victims in society or victimizing, the clients themselves. To help develop a lifestyle and a mindset that living that law-abiding life, working to be successful, finding a job, a 9 to 5, anything a 9 to 5, anything honest, any honest is proud to be proud of. Not to judge themselves by the next person, to look at your life and take charge and say, I'm happy to not live and be doing things I used to do. I'm looking good. I feel good about myself. War, living life by the laws of the land, by the laws of God, if they should, to build that life and to look at their life and the chances of going back to the behavior they once had to lead to recidivism as a downfall, as a backward thinking. Because to lead that life and to go back, there are going to be victims. And to look at that as I don't want any more victims in my life, including myself. I don't want no one else to get hurt by my behavior, by my choices, including myself. And that's the approach that recidivism and reentry has to take, because that strengthens the community, that builds character, that allows the individual to look at himself as an asset, look at himself as someone who can help contribute to the goodness of the community, who, in spite of how hard it is, to continue to stand firm and make decisions that they may feel that they may not understand the moment, but to stand on the goodness of who they are and understand the experiences of what they just came from, prison life, confinement, and to look at their lives today and if they want to trade in on that. So reentry has to have so many different complex diaphragms in order to succeed. There's no one size fit all. Here at the Innocence Project, the social work department, we have Innocence Project have created in 2006 to understand, to help individuals and help those clients win their freedom and then see the effects of long-term imprisonment. The decision was made to create a well-defined social work department to help the clients come and navigate through the perils. Social work department now consists of 2 full-time social workers with the hope of a 3rd full-time social worker, and myself, who am the first reentry coach. In the process, the goal is to help give tailored, wraparound, holistic care to our clients and understanding what they're going through. We give the minimum of 1 year support. In that 1 year, we help and strive to understand and help that individual grow, develop, heal, and want more for their life. One thing that I've noticed, and we've all spoke about in other reentry circles, is today the growth in the release of women in reentry. Surprisingly, but not surprisingly, there are not enough resources available to women today because reentry is generally a male-driven industry. That's normally how it's looked at. So no real investment time was given to the growth of women now who are being released into society, who need the resources already available to them that are not the same as the resources for men. Of course, they're going to feel the same traumatic psychological effects, but the reentry and the needs for women in reentry are far different from that of men. And it requires a further study and expansion so that women can be better served in the reentry community. And with that is where myself and so many others feel our talent, skills, growth, resources, understanding, expertise is needed to balance out that imbalance, to make sure that women, when they're coming home to their children, can make that connection, because it's a very difficult, hurt feeling to have been gone out your child's life, and then as a mother come back and now have to reestablish the love that you naturally had, that they naturally had. And it's a sad feeling to acknowledge. So we have to give more thought to that process. Secondly, the it needs more focus in reentry to help the success of the clients and help success of ex-offenders wrongful convicted. Is there has to be more added in resources to helping the family members understand what that particular person is going through. Oftentimes, the family members are left at the mercy of their love for whom they're supporting through all the way through the trauma that they're experiencing, even so secondary trauma of dealing with someone who just came home and not understanding why there's so many mood swings and not understanding why, despite all the love around them, still being isolated and still being so hyper vigilant and still unable to make the necessary relationship connections. More resources and time need to be given to those family members, those support systems to help them develop and so that they can understand what they're seeing and how to deal with it and how to respond to it, as opposed to most times, look, everyone has emotions. If you try to talk to someone, look, I understand you, and someone is saying you don't understand, and you're trying to give your best, it's frustrating, it's irritating. You get upset as well. You want to take a step back, like, I don't know what else to do. I'm tired of, and that's unfair to those family members who want to help their loved ones, who want to help those that they support, family or friends. And more resources need to be added in the growth of that area too, so that we can combat recidivism, we can combat and help the reentry process grow and reduce more numbers in recidivism nationwide by building those building blocks, those platforms, those connections with those who need the training, the understanding, just the empathy, the acknowledgement that we see you and here are some solutions, the guides to look through and handle what you're dealing with. Because most people take on these responsibilities unwittingly and not knowing that they're really the only person that this individual may have. And the closer you are, the more you'll get the worst parts until things change. So reentry is such a growing situation. It's sad to say that it's a growing industry because that only reflects the high population of incarceration in this country. That we have to look at industry reentry as a growing industry. That we have to look at public safety and the protection of our community as an industry, as something that has to be took a step back and funded in a way that has been so underfunded and so overlooked for so many years that it has got to a point where recidivism in every state is growing. And to look at Iowa's recidivism rates decrease, I can only say kudos to those individuals and those mindsets and those who feel that making reentry a priority. And when we talk about reentry and we talk about the effects of things and we talk about how we want to take steps and come together and work as one, we really have to take this as a family. We have to look at each other and our resources as a network. We had to be able to look and say, oh, we had a conference, but we had to continue this relationship. We had to work all together, symbiotically, all to bring the recidivism rate down throughout the country. And we cannot do it isolated, away, disconnected. We have a stronger chance if we work together in this way. We have a greater chance of being successful to bring not only the recidivism rate down, but the crime rate, the unemployment rate. We will be empowering those who come home and work in earnest to earn their rights to vote. We'll be given another chance to help develop and grow a whole new generation of parents who have been removed from their children's lives for years. It'll work in a way where we will grow our community and grow our society as a whole, because we have a issue and a crisis, which is a real reality. And we have to stand in the forefront to help if that's what we choose to do. And reentry is a very important process of this. And that's as a unit, as a network, as a community of those who individually work hard, or individually just advocate, or individually hold a spot in their heart for people who are in coming home, and a spot in their heart for those who are dedicate their lives to helping those individuals. Here, the Innocence Project, that goes two ways. Those staff dedicate their lives to helping free the innocent, and at the same time help to make sure that they have the best chance of reentry. And I say that equally for those who are ex-offenders, who I said have been guilty, who are on parole. The same view and second chance has to be given to them as well, which is already being done. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just adding on to some of the texture of the tire in the wheel, so that we can roll a little smoother and accomplish and achieve greater goals, as my hope and my contribution to do all this. And so understanding that this topic could go on, and so many things that I've spoke about, everyone else has also on their plate, and knowing that we work as a group, I want to now open opportunity that we can share any questions and answers, where I can provide whatever answers possible. Thank you. I see Becky Warren.
I think she's celebrating. I think she's clapping, which I am too. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
So if anyone does have questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat. Is there a standing ovation button? I'd click it. Same. We do have some time now for question and answer with Rodney. And we're so thankful that you're here and a part of this. If anyone has questions, please feel free to enter them in the chat or come off mute.
Hi, Rodney. Thank you so much for sharing today, and I really appreciated your story and what you've been through and sharing with us. I work with the Reentry program with United Way, and I'm really interested in hearing a little more about what you suggest for supporting families.
Supporting, I hear the last part, supporting
families, sorry.
Oh, yeah, well, families are the key to the success of reentry, because it's the family growth and family acknowledgement to this that comes, because when an individual is released, it's the family who has to deal with those more fresh traumatic responses. They have to accept and understand when it's just happening, because you're just leaving a prison environment, person just leaving a prison environment, and you had no time to put any distance, shed some of this, these prison generated reactions and emotions and problem solving ideas, because in prison, there's a microcosm of society, but it exists in a completely different pocket. And you, like I said, to survive, you have to adapt to this environment. You have to environment of control and daily operations, everything the same. Your diet is the same. You have to, for years and years of doing the same things over and over again. The lack of education, the lack of development, the lack of connection with society, your family, only through visit hall or for a couple hours at the oversight of prison guards standing over you, watching you. Now, when you release, you have those restrictions may have been removed physically, but psychologically and emotionally, the framework is still there. And you're home the first couple of days, weeks there, the first thing that happened to you is strange to share is that when you eat better foods, now you dealing with a whole new, even the digestive tract is going through a big change. But in this to add some context to that, now you come home and you're still tired at the same time you've been tired for the last 15, 20 years. You're still hungry at the same time that the food is served. You still extra feel that you want to move around at the same time they give a yard out. So your body has need to make those physiological changes over time. And the family doesn't understand what you're going through. Now you're home and your family's like, look, you're home. You don't have those problems anymore. But they don't know that those problems still exist even fresh now. And then that's to the families and the support system disadvantage because there's really very few groups, Zoom groups today, we live in Zoom world, Zoom groups, or even groups that they can go to or other platforms they can go to that can help them understand. There are some, but they are not enough compared to the numbers of people being released, the number of the reentry numbers, and we can look at the recidivism numbers to show that there's things missing, and the families they're at the mercy. So there has to be an approach there to train, or even in the beginning process, creating maybe a guideline, a book or something idea that helps families understand the process of what they're seeing. To look and see, okay, I see now what they were talking about. Why the hypervigilance? Why are you feeling so jittery? Why are you sitting way over there, way over here? I just only asked you to take out the garbage. I didn't. Why are you mad? They're mad because that person has been told for the last years what to do, when to do it, how to do it. So when someone says, "Hey, I thought I asked you to take out the garbage," in their mind, they hearing the CO saying, what I told you to do. So they couldn't say nothing then, but now it's their time to let it out. But it's the wrong person. And it's not really meant that way, it's just a trauma response. But the family member doesn't understand that. They like, oh, you're so angry. I don't even want to say nothing to you. And that creates a whole nother void in that person's life because the family don't know how to deal with it. And I think that's so unfair. Because how could you expect someone to help you when they don't even know what the problem is? And in the United Way, I look and I see that I love them very much respect because I see United Way it has grown nationwide and worldwide. And I'm hoping that through this conference, not only that we can share information, but and network and share resources that we can all work together to how to draft and look at expanding the needs of family members. Also, expanding the needs and understand and find ways to help parents connect with their children as well. Because I'm also seeing that as an issue and a big issue as well. Because years of child life, my personal experience, I'm gonna share with my son. When I had touched my son and I left, he was a little guy. He was 8 years old. So I was his superhero, so to speak. I did everything. I made sure. So when I was suddenly snatched out of his life, thank God I have a strong family. You know, I come from a large family. I have 6 sisters and 4 brothers. He was engulfed in with family members to come in, but they did not, because of his age, they didn't tell him where I was at. They said, "Oh, he's away." Then when he got a little older, he's away in school. And then when he got a little older and able to ask questions, he said, well, my friend such and such dad is in school and he comes home. Why doesn't my dad come home to see me? He started feeling like I abandoned him. And because my family, in this quest to protect him, never let him know the truth. So when he was growing up, he was growing thinking that I left him. So it hurt me that he had got to the point that he didn't want to talk to me on the phone. And I would cry. And I'm a grown man driving around, oh, killers, whatever, crying, because I could not help it. Because my son was angry at me because he thought I left him. And so it wasn't until he got older and they finally told him what happened, that he was innocent, he's wrongfully arrested, he's in prison, that his heart melted. He felt so hurt. And he started writing me, started telling him, take me to see my dad. And we developed just a great relationship. He's a great guy today. I really love this guy since I've been home. And but he shared with me how he was feeling. And he said, I didn't even want to talk to you. And I was really feeling that way. And so the years of his growth, me missing graduations, missing important parts of his life, just from as a teen in the community, as a young Black teen in our community, growing up needing guidance and understanding what he was experiencing and not really getting it from someone that he knows will protect him and tell him how to navigate through. And thank God, like I said, he was surrounded in love and he's a God-fearing man. But connecting with him was a problem, was difficult in the beginning because although I was his dad, I missed years of his growth. And I had to learn to walk into his life at the age he is now and not look at him as the 8-year-old child that I left because he was no longer that. And our connection had to grow after me learning. And most individuals who come home have that difficulty reestablishing that connection with even their children. And then, and that's a big issue too. We need to put more focus on the lives of the child and how that affects them and what we could do to make even their transition a help of their loved one, their family, their father or mother back into society. Because you can't expect the child to just know they're gonna go on what they feel. Even when they're older, they're still gonna go on what they feel about their parent. And so we need to help and be mindful of that in reentry as well. And coupled with the whole family dynamics and understanding how families grow. And there's no perfect family. I haven't seen one yet. I haven't even read about one. But we all we all work together, we all love who we are, love who we are part of. And we all work as one unit to help grow for the next generation so we can understand and see ourselves and what we are to our children. So that's another issue.
Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you for the question.
I don't know if you've had a chance to see the chat. You're getting a lot of love in the chat.
Oh, thank the chat. Thank you, everyone. I definitely just appreciate, like I said, being a part of this and sharing the opportunity to lend my experience and share what reentry looks like to me and felt like to me because I sit in this seat humbly and not in a position of I've overcome it all. I understand what gives me my strength and my ability to process and help others. And with this is knowing that my own vulnerabilities and knowing how susceptible I am to other people's, my clients and other exonerees trauma because I'm experiencing it myself. and the acknowledgement that I am vulnerable and I do have these particular parts of myself still open, that strengthens me. And that gave me the strength to look at myself and look at situations maybe from a second perspective angle or a third person angle. And that gave me the insight to look at things from another perspective, because then I was able to separate, proper categorize everything and compartmentalize everything so that I can separate those immediate emotions from my own. And that put me in a position and a seat to help others without absorbing the full blunt of the trauma and emotions that we may both share, and suffering experiences and unhappiness and powerlessness that we may both share from the same experience. And that's also what has helped me in the longevity of things with dealing with secondary trauma, which is something that we talk about here at the Innocence Project, because the Innocence Project is so on the forefront with taking on client cases. And sometimes the cases, oftentimes cases are very horrific circumstances, very sad, very and heartfelt. And so you can only be empathetic, it's only human, to understand, see someone suffering for something they didn't do, and you want to help them. And you develop that trauma, that feeling of secondary trauma from just someone else's experience, and you hold on to that, and you go in hard, and that's a process too. And for myself, it became a double process, because not only from experiencing the trauma from reentry, but also the accepting the secondary trauma of those who have been wrongfully in prison, and my role as a reentry coach to help navigate through their difficulties as well as mine. And that's another important part of helping in reentry, because reentry is an empathetic environment. It's where you see someone who's struggling and needs help, and your heart and your humanity only make you want to help. And then you take on that person's feelings, that person's doubts, that person's you have to strengthen them in their confidence, and to take on all that secondary trauma and not really have your own personal outlets, your own me time, your own what do you do to help release available to you, it becomes very overwhelming. And so that is also a big piece in dealing with reentry, and understanding that we absorb so much secondary trauma from our clients, from our environment, from hearing about other people, from reading so much, even the news. And it makes it more of internal and personal challenge if we not really looking at it as we have our own traumas in life, and now we adopt and absorb others from our people we serve as service to, and we have to be balanced with that as well. So, like I said, for myself, that was a big struggle that I was able to navigate through the direction of the Innocence Project, more detailed through the support of the social work department that I'm a part of, who helped me understand what my role and how to just navigate through the traumas that I was here to help and serve. And so that is a big piece too.
Does anyone else have questions? If so, feel free to come off mute or enter them in the chat. I'll give it a few seconds here.
Look, I don't think that I have a question as much as I wanted to just thank Rodney for his time with us today. Working as a probation officer and a mental health therapist, I hear you. I hear what you're saying about the secondary trauma, about the pain, about the effect that it has on the kids. But also from that PO's perspective, I've had clients in front of me saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And I remember thinking, what resources do I have? You are sentenced, you're in front of me, I got to follow the court order. So just even being reminded of the Innocence Project was a welcome thing. So thank you for that. But just to kind of realize that we all are people. And we got to meet people where they're at and not judge. I've tried my entire career for 20 years never to judge my clients in front of me and just meet them where they were at. But this was a good reminder to refer them to the Innocence Project, to get them the help that they need, because they might not have done it. And I don't want to them to happen what's happened to you. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate just you sharing that and knowing, understanding the dynamics and the importance of your job, your responsibility as well, and the impartiality that you have to maintain and the positions you have to maintain, even feeling a way that you had to do your job in order to keep to facilitate and keep the process moving forward. Thank you for that. And like you said, we are human and we here together at this conference to make those connections and share the fact that wherever role we a capacity we're in to move an individual forward after incarceration or on probation, some supervision, we are in that role and that we're here at the conference just to connect with each other and share the connection of what it feels like to be human in a role and with a responsibility and still be effective in what we do and hope that we are doing the best we can in that situation while following the guidelines that we're governed by.
Well, Rodney, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here and talk to our statewide conference. I know that I echo all of the messages in the chat, and just thank you for your vulnerability, for bringing a different perspective for us, myself, I should say. I can't speak for everyone, but I know that this has really been impactful for me. So thank you so much to you and to the Innocence Project for the work that you're doing. It is greatly appreciated. I wish everybody could see this session, and the good news is that we've recorded it, so we can share it with anybody who missed it and that we want to see it. So with that, I again just want to say thanks and appreciate you for being here.
Thank you, and hopefully through this conference that we will develop a network through Innocent Project and any organization or position that title you may hold, and let this not be our only chance to communicate and connect.